Welcome, everybody, to episode number 12 of the Footy Express podcast. I'm your co-host, Nicholas Fiore, by his lonesome today for episode number 12. I'm gonna touch upon World Cup qualifiers, Canada soccer right here, Italy, the Italians on an unbeaten streak that is historic, as well as Brazil's World Cup qualifiers and all around the world, as we are currently in the qualifiers international duty window, which is about to be coming to an end. Looks like today and tomorrow, the last batch of World Cup qualifiers. You're watching live on YouTube, live on Facebook, also on Twitch, sometimes under Gooch Live show, the Gooch Live Productions. We would like to also thank our sponsor, The Bottom Line, 22 Front Street, downtown Toronto. Best chicken wings in the city, hashtag Toronto's classiest sports bar. Thank you to Wayne Cowley and everyone at The Bottom Line for coming on board when we first started and being our official sponsor. Of course, everyone use the hashtag espresso at lunch. Hashtag espresso at lunch. Some nice bella espresso to start your afternoon. It really doesn't get much better than that. Listen, everyone, this episode might be a little bit quicker than normal, but it's going to be informative. It's going to be all about the World Cup qualifying, all about the international duty all around the world. Of course, I will continue to digress on a few things club-wise at the club level, but we don't have our co-host Val today. We don't have our inter-producers Max or Victor. They said, Nicholas, you're good. You're on your own island. So make that island yours. And that's exactly what I'm going to try to do and try to please all of the listeners and viewers on today's show. Remember, folks, we are live every Thursday afternoon at 12:30 p.m. on YouTube, live on Facebook under the Footy Express podcast. You can follow us also on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at the Footy Express podcast or at the Footy Express pod. Kerry Goulet obviously chiming in. We thank Kerry Goulet for this platform as well. Giving the soccer world a little bit of taste from a guy from Etobicoke and a guy from Brampton in their basements just talking shop. But we love it and we love to do it and we love to please you, the viewer, on what is going on in this soccer world. Today is the last day of World Cup qualifying for this international window. And it's the South Americans' turn, with Paraguay playing Venezuela, Uruguay playing Ecuador, Colombia playing Chile, Argentina playing Bolivia, and Brazil playing Peru. And I'm going to touch upon that a little later on. But I want to start with Canada and Soccer Canada and last night, how great it is to see the sea of red at BMO Field in downtown Toronto, or if they're in Montreal, or if they're in Vancouver, or if they're in Edmonton, or they're in, Alberta. Doesn't matter where it is. It looks like now John Herdman, the head coach, said it best for Canada, folks, that it is now a home game at home. And you can see it right there with, these Canadians. It truly means something. You see Stefan Estoquillo right there with Jonathan Osorio to the left of him, number 7. He changed his nationality from Portugal to Canada in order to get this opportunity and play for a country that wants them. Kyle Larin and Atiba Hutchinson for Besiktas, who are going to be playing in the Champions League with Turkey in the coming weeks. Canada has the golden generation, as I would steal from my co-host Val. Look what it means to Atiba Hutchinson, Captain Hutchinson. He's been with the Canadian program, Brampton native, I might add, for such a long time. And he's finally coming into a little bit older, but the golden generation with Richie Larea there as well, the Driftwood Spanish League player, believe it or not, from Toronto. I know Richie pretty decently and pretty well also, and it's just also new to these Canadians. This is the best Canadian men's national soccer team we've had in a very long time, if not the best. Tejan Buchanan just signed with Club Brugge in Belgium. He's leaving New England Revolution, the MLS, in January. Look at that celebration with Jonathan David scoring when they combined. Jonathan David scored last night. Buchanan scored last night. Atiba Hutchinson scored last night. And let's not forget, they didn't have the phenom, Alphonso Davies, in the lineup as he picked up a PCL injury with Bayern Munich in Germany, played 2 qualifying games where they tied Honduras 1-1. They tied the U.S. as well 1-1. And you saw that, with Davies, they needed him. They didn't need him last night because last night, folks, the Canadians put on a masterclass performance. They put on that performance by wanting that victory. Those 3 points were crucial to them, and they got it done. 3-0 against El Salvador. A landslide of a game, not just by the scoreline, but possession-wise and the will to win. John Herdman said it's a must-win. Let's think, folks. There's still 10 more games left in the World Cup qualifying for Canada. But this hexagonal stage is very, very important because it is very tough to get in to the World Cup from CONCACAF. 8 teams in the final 8. 3 teams move on to the World Cup, the top 3. The 4th place team plays an intercontinental playoff, which is against, I believe, the Asian Oceania bracket, which usually is New Zealand, but we'll see how that goes. Let me tell you something. Canada has a chance to make it. Behind John Herdman and behind these big boys of the golden generation, Canada has the opportunity. You see the standing there. We're going to, talk about John Herdman just before we hit those standings, because those standings are crucial after 3 games of qualifying. But John Herdman, folks, the Canadian men's national team coach, just look at that. Most international match wins for a Canadian men's national team coach, 22. That's how you know that the men's program has struggled for years. John Herdman, let's not forget, folks, he left the women's program and came to the men's program and said, I want to do damage here. Excuse me. And I want to make a difference. Okay? And that's exactly what he has been doing. He has changed his Canadian program upside down. He took over from Octavio Zambrano, who just really didn't fit and didn't know what was going on. He was giving players chances that no one ever heard of, which is fine. But then he forgot about the other young kids. Okay? With the mix that John Herdman is bringing into this country, into this international team, it's fantastic to see. You have a bit of the younger guys, but then you have those older guys here and there. You have Milan Borjan in net. You have Atiba Hutchinson. You have Scott Arfield, who, by the way, has not been called, and he's in the 2nd division of England. And England's 2nd division is really damn good, just under the EPL. So, the opportunities here for the Canadians, it's big. It's big. As we bring up the standings momentarily, they currently sit in 2nd place. And just look at that, folks, for a second. We can stay on here and dwell about it because you've never seen Canada this high, okay? And I don't care, it's only 3 games in. You have to celebrate and you have to reward and give credit where credit is due. And John Herdman has done fantastic with these players. Look at this overall standing so far, 3 games in, okay? Canada should have won the first game against Honduras. They came back against USA with a Kyle Larin goal to make it 1-1. But 5 points with 3 matches played is pretty darn good for this Canadian team to start off. They're only a win away from overtopping Mexico and going into first. Yes, they're tied with USA and Panama, but it doesn't matter. All you need is to come top 3 or even top 4 to have that opportunity to go. And already right now, Costa Rica, Honduras, and El Salvador are still a win away, and Jamaica's more than a win away from the Canadians 3 matches into this standings, into this World Cup qualifying for Qatar for next November. Crazy to even say the World Cup's going to be played in November, but that's because of the false bid and Qatar couldn't get it back from them. But anyways, I digress. The opportunities here, folks, for the Canadian men's national team is big. They have to rely on John Herdman. They have to rely on their stars. But what was on display last night, folks, was the roster squad depth. They had both strikers, Canada. Lucas Cavallini, who I know pretty well, and Kyle Larin, another Brampton boy. Shout out Brampton. Okay. On the bench. They had them on the bench to start yesterday's game. Now take that in. Without Alphonso Davies, I might add. Because they started Jonathan David, Tajon Buchanan, and Junior Hoylet, another Brampton boy. You have your two starting strikers on the bench to start that game because you have other guys that maybe are even quality-wise better to play. It is crucial and very important for this Canadian team with the depth that they have. Even in net, you have Maxime Crépeau, the Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeper, as your backup. They only are faulty on the back end. You know, you have Kamal Miller and Steven Vittoria, who are okay. Then you maybe have Daniel Henry, Daniel Cornelius, Scott Kennedy. Guys that, you know, no one really truly know that well. But the depth is there in the midfield. Jonathan Osorio, Atiba Hutchinson, Scott Arfield, Steven Astuaquillo, Richie Larea, and so many more down the list. It is so good to see that this Canadian team are on the right foot. And they're on that foot forward, and they cannot take that foot off that gas pedal. They got to keep on going, and push the envelope until, you know, they have that opportunity to really make some dividends in this qualifying. I think Canada can do well. I think Canada can get it done. They just got to keep on going. Their next games are coming up against Mexico away, Jamaica away, and Panama at home in the October international break. So, which is starting October 6th all the way to October 13th. So there's opportunities there for Canada. Now they have to own it, and they have to, you know, do what they can to go to that World Cup. Moving on to another part of the world, and it's Europe. But it's with my beloved Italians and the European champions, l'Italia, who got off to a shaky start in this qualifying international break. You know, tying Bulgaria, tying Switzerland, 1-1 and 0-0 respectively. But then they beat Lithuania yesterday, 5-0, with the youngsters, Moise Kean, Giacomo Raspadori. And Italy look very, very, very good. Look at that celebration from the youngsters. You have Jorginho's there, but then you have Cristante, Raspadori, Calabria, okay? Moise Kean. All these youngsters took over yesterday, folks, and the champions of Europe looked dominant, and they looked like they went nowhere. They tied Bulgaria and Switzerland, as mentioned, and it was a little shaky, but the possession was out of this world. They had so many opportunities to score and couldn't. No Immobile, no Chiesa, no Locatelli, no Insigne, no Sensi, no Barella. All their big guys, and they said the youngsters are taking over. Yes, it's against Lithuania. I understand that. But 5-0 is still not a joke. You do 1 or 2-0, okay, you know, whatever. But 5-0 for these young kids to come out firing, the youngsters of Italy are showing that they are the future. And with them being the future, look at that right there, what it meant to Moise Kean, who's now on Juventus, came from PSG, and the Sassuolo man, Giacomo Raspadori. The young kids are coming, and they're coming into form because they want to make this World Cup team. And they need to come out firing in the next stage. Now, what's crazy, the Italians are 37 games unbeaten across the board. Qualifying, Euro or World Cup, international friendlies, Euro Cup. They are undefeated. UEFA Nations League, 37 games. They play October 6th in the UEFA Nations League semifinals against Spain. And then Switzerland and Northern Ireland in the World Cup qualifying to end the schedule that they have. And then they will do, more Nations League when that tournament is over and more international friendlies in order to prepare for the World Cup, of course, next November in Qatar, November 18th to December 18th. They're looking sharp. Look at those standings, right? Switzerland need to win all 4 games, 8 games played in a 5-team group. Italy's on top with 14 points. Northern Ireland 5, Bulgaria 5, and Lithuania 0. With the Italians where they are at now, they set themselves up just to win out. They have 2 more games left against Switzerland and Northern Ireland. Win or tie, you're in first place. In Europe, folks, the first place team automatically goes to the FIFA World Cup. The second place teams get into a home and home playoff, and the winners of all of the group second place teams then goes to the FIFA World Cup. And we're going to go into that right now as the Italians look solid. But the standings of Europe, there are some surprises. There's also some skepticism as well. You see Portugal where they are. They're good in first place with 13 points. Spain is in Group B with 13 as well. But Sweden beat Spain this international break. France pulled in Italy. They had a Euro Cup hangover. And France and Italy both tied their games. France tied Ukraine and Bosnia, and then they beat Finland 2-0. Italy tied Switzerland and Bulgaria, then they beat Lithuania 5-0. Belgium looked comfortable on top of Group E. Denmark, Christian Eriksen, obviously, the accident that he had, came out firing and are undefeated, 6-0. Now, you look at that group, Scotland, Israel, Australia, Faroe Islands, Moldova, not a really tough group for Denmark. But needless to say, they're getting the job done. So as it stands right now on these 6 groups, and we have 2 more groups to touch upon, Portugal, Italy, Belgium, Denmark, France, and Spain are the ones qualifying automatically for the World Cup. And then Serbia, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Scotland, Ukraine, and Sweden will currently be in the playoff. As we move on to the last 2 groups in Europe, they're also pretty self-explanatory as well. It's the runners-up of Europe, England. The last 4 groups here, I should say. You have Netherlands on top, but Erling Haaland, the Borussia Dortmund man, who's been on fire with Norway. Yes, he's Norwegian, folks. He stayed loyal to his country, and look where they are. Norway has a chance, and Turkey has a chance of making Netherlands not make this World Cup, which would be apocalyptic because that'll be 2 in a row for the Dutch. Remember, the last World Cup, Netherlands, USA, Chile, and Italy, the 4 big teams, surprisingly not making the 2018 World Cup. Croatia is on top of Group H. England is on top of Group I, and Germany, not so comfortably, I might add, for the Germans, but they are also on top of Group J, with Norway, Albania, Armenia, and Russia going into that playoff. So some pretty more competitive, groups and teams. The lower-end teams, folks, are coming up now. You see Norway. Norway was never, ever, ever to be thought about in the qualifying, but they are because they have grown and developed over time. With these World Cup qualifying, there could be so many surprises that anything truly can happen. And really, anything can happen in South America right now because other than Brazil, it's pretty close. Brazil and Neymar, that's the guy they rely on. That's their dude, right? Neymar, just having fun at training right there in that Brazil kit. He knows that there's an opportunity here for this Brazilian side to really cause some havoc. And they are currently at the top of the table right now in the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying. You see at 21 points, 7-0. They're great. Argentina, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Colombia all in a mix. Here is the top 4 qualify, and then the 5th place team then has a playoff as well. So currently right now, we have Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, and Uruguay currently qualifying for the World Cup. Ecuador, very, very big for them because they are one of those countries that have been struggling for years and finally now are cracking the top four. But then you have the lower teams in Paraguay, Peru. Chile is the most surprised that they're down there, but they tie so many games. Bolivia and Venezuela, yes, you kind of expect them to be there. But it's pretty tight. From second to fourth or fifth, it is pretty tight, and it's anybody's game. There are World Cup qualifiers tonight, so we'll leave these standings up here. You can see that Venezuela play Paraguay. So Paraguay has an opportunity now to get this 3 points, 11, and overtop Colombia because Colombia play a tough Chilean side. Now, Chile, they're at 7 points, but they're still Chile. They are very difficult to play, kind of a dirty team at times, and they have an opportunity to beat the Colombians. Argentina should deal with Bolivia with Lionel Messi, and Brazil should deal with Peru, but Brazil only beat Peru 1-0 in the Copa America tournament, with Argentina winning that tournament against Brazil in the final. So I think that the opportunity is here for some teams. If Peru can steal one against Brazil and Argentina can beat Bolivia, then that gap gets closer to the top of the table. So we will see. But right now it's Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Uruguay through, and Colombia would have to play a crossover. Moving on to more qualifiers, and it's in Asia. With the Asian side, there's 2 groups of qualifying right now. And the first place teams are Australia and Iran. With this, they're only 2 games in, but Iran and Australia look good, with Korea Republic behind and Saudi Arabia behind, I should say. Now, Japan normally does better. Now, they're only 1 win, 1 loss. Very, very, very early. You have Iraq, who sometimes gets some dubs, and then Syria, then there's Egypt, right, in there as well. Not in this one, but in the past with Mo Salah, right? So, usually this is Australia and Iran's platform, if we can say that. Saudi Arabia has been decent lately. Japan, also a pretty good team. Korea Republic, a little bit of a surprise, undefeated, a win and a tie right now. Same thing here. I believe it's the top 2 or 3 teams that move on. And then there's crossovers for the third place teams, or fourth place teams to see who moves on to the FIFA World Cup. So it's going to be very interesting here to see exactly who goes through and who's going to make that final push. But it's very early in the Asian qualifying. Qualifying in Africa, then, as we continue to move forward here, as I'm touching upon all of the World Cup qualifiers, not about 23 minutes in, 24 minutes in, we would like to thank, obviously, the bottom line. Wayne Cowley, 22 Front Street, downtown Toronto, official restaurant of the Hockey Hall of Fame as well. Official sponsor of the show, The Bottom Line, Toronto. # Toronto's classiest sports bar. Obviously, Kerry Goulet and Gooch Life Productions. Obviously, giving us the platform here. I'm your co-host, Nicholas Fiore, by his lonesome today. Hopefully, you enjoy this episode. Just an informative World Cup qualifying episode, of course. As we move on to the African side, there's plenty of groups, all the way from Group A to Group J. And there's 4 teams per group. Now, this is not the final qualifying, right? This is, I believe, the first or second place teams move on. And then there's another round, and then like the CONCACAF a little bit, who will move forward. And right now, 2 games in, Algeria in a group with Burkina Faso, Niger, and I believe that is up there, Deporti. They don't have really that opportunity in Deporti there to do anything. This round of qualifying, Deporti is a qualifying in Africa where there's lower end teams that don't really go far. Niger, gets 3 points, which is huge, but it will probably be Algeria out of this one. It's usually Tunisia out of Group B, who did make the World Cup last time around in 2018. Zambia's there, but then like Mauritania Equatorial Guinea. They're not gonna make some havoc, but it's usually Tunisia. As we move on to Group C and Group D, it gets a little bit more clear in Group C that Nigeria normally takes the cake in this continent in general. And, of course, the former Côte d'Ivoire famous player in Didier Drogba in Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. They actually have a bit of a difficulty here with Cameroon, the former Samuel Eto'o's former country, the former Inter Milan striker. So Nigeria will normally, be fine with Liberia, Cabo Verde, and Central African Republic. But then, Mozambique and Malawi, they're not going to really contest the likes of Ivory Coast and Cameroon. It's early now, right? But it's going to, come to fruition where one of those two teams have to move on. Going into Group E and Group F, Mali right now, is surprisingly above Kenya and even Uganda, believe it or not, in this group. Mali is, 4 points, already a decent cushion. Obviously, a win, Rwanda could go all the way tied for first, but Mali probably takes it there, but a lot to go here. And this is where I was talking about Egypt with Mohamed Salah, the Liverpool striker, the winger, the striker. Libya right now is in first, but Gabon and Angola won't have that depth to compete in this group because it's probably going to be Egypt. But Egypt now has to really take over and when they play Libya, beat Libya with Mo Salah because Mo Salah deserves to be in a World Cup. Moving on to Group G and H. As we just scroll here, with Group G and Group H, South Africa, obviously they hosted the World Cup in 2010. Thank you, Robert. Nicholas, you rock. You know that. I appreciate your support. You come on all the time for the boys. Appreciate you tuning in once again here as the informative Footy Express podcast, episode 12, from myself, Nicholas Fiore. Anyways, South Africa, right? 4 points. Ghana, since that 2010 World Cup, 2014 World Cup, they've struggled to get back into the mix, Ghana. And now they're trying to do that in a tough group. Maybe the group of death in this round for the African qualifying with South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. Senegal, they've been pretty good lately. Last World Cup, they even caused some havoc in their group in 2018. They'll probably take the cake over Namibia, Congo, and Togo. I don't think those guys really have an opportunity. And then moving down to the final two with Group I and Group J. Guinea-Bissau right now is on top. Morocco, Guinea, and Sudan. Now, Morocco's probably my favorite out of this group because of Achraf Hakimi, former Inter Milan player, the winger, and currently now on Paris Saint-Germain, PSG in France with Lionel Messi. I think Morocco takes that group. I think they do make the World Cup finally after they've been struggling for years and years. And this might be the easiest of the groups in Group J with Tanzania in first, Benin, Congo, DR, and Madagascar. Right now, Tanzania in first place. That is a toss-up group. Anything can go there. Obviously, Tanzania had a good start to this African qualifying. Lots of talking here, folks. Lots of informative stuff. That's all of the World Cup qualifying wrap-up. And technically, that is, folks, the up-to-date World Cup qualifying standings, brackets, rounds, teams, and where they fall. The only change will be after tonight with 5 games on deck in Common Bowl in South America. As mentioned, World Cup qualifying there. TFC's striker, Jefferson Soteldo, on Venezuela. Can he beat Paraguay? Messi's Argentina. Can they do the job against Bolivia? Can Ecuador keep pace and stop Suarez and Cavani's Uruguay? Going to be some good matchups. And can Brazil, Neymar, beat Peru, which Peru's a team that always plays Brazil hard? We don't know. Canada's looking sharp. They're looking good. They have to continue their pace in October against Mexico, Jamaica, and Panama. Panama's been a surprise so far. The European champs in Italy, they're looking sharp as well. Basically only a matter of logistics, and they qualify for the World Cup. Their first World Cup since missing the 2018 tournament. which was apocalyptic in itself. It's always good to talk shop. It's always good to talk about this footy world because the World Cup qualifiers is always exciting because you represent your country, your heritage, your background. Born there, born in another country, but you have that background between your parents, grandparents, cousins, nephews, uncles, aunts. Doesn't matter where. It's always nice to cheer for your country, obviously, respectfully, and celebrate their wins or draws or their achievements as well. That's it, folks, to be completely honest. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I made you guys happy, made you guys, proud, and gave you guys a great episode. I enjoyed it. I love talking shop, hockey, soccer, basketball, whatever it is. Obviously, the Footy Express podcast, all about footy, all about the soccer world. Transfer window was last week, the winners and the losers. This week was World Cup qualifying. Next week, hopefully, we got the squad back together in co-host Val and then the intern producers, Max and Victor, and we can maybe have a round table or who knows what we're going to be talking about. But it will be something intriguing in this soccer, football, footy world. I want to thank everybody listening and watching this episode. Episode number 12, folks. Can't believe it. Of the Footy Express podcast. You see it behind me, right on the sign there. You see it behind me on the TV. It's only going to get bigger and better, and we appreciate everybody's support. Kerry Goulet and Gooch Live Productions, producer Jordan LaRoche now on this producing show here with myself, bringing you the action, as well as Wayne Cowley, owner, former NHL player at The Bottom Line, downtown Toronto, restaurant and bar, hashtag Toronto's classiest sports bar, folks, 22 Front Street, downtown Toronto, the official restaurant of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Remember, folks, hashtag espresso at lunch. Use it, abuse it, put it everywhere, okay, folks? Because it is something that we want to explode as big as possible. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well, at the Footy Express Pod, at the Footy Express Podcast. I hope you had a great afternoon with me, your co-host, Nicholas Fiore, here on the Footy Express Podcast. Everyone, next Thursday, 12:30, another show. Follow us. Get in tune because we love it and we hope you love it. Enjoy the footy world. Enjoy the qualifiers of South America tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nicholas Fiore. This is the Footy Express Podcast. Ciao.